And to that same point, Josh, and maybe as a follow-up for on the brand side, what is negotiable when it comes to maybe these conversations, right? I think price is the obvious question that will come into play, but ultimately you can always talk about volume and how much you're going to grow and expectations. But what can maybe like brand owners think about when they're going into those conversations as levers that might not be as obvious to them?
One of the things that isn't as obvious, and it really wasn't as obvious to me until I just started asking about it, was minimum order quantities. And oftentimes you get your MOQs from your manufacturer. They tell you a number, and you're like, okay, now I'm stuck with this MOQ. Now I have to buy 10,000 units, right? But if you just ask and say, hey, can we do 5,000? I can't afford to do 10,000 right now. Can we do 5,000? What's the cost going to look like on that? Obviously, it's going to increase your cost, right? But just ask, right? I think that was one thing that really wasn't apparent to me when I first started talking to manufacturers. And then I'm like, is your MOQ actually 10,000? Is there a reason it's 10? Understand the reasoning behind the MOQ. It could be that it's just way too cost prohibitive to run anything less than 10,000. But more times than not, you'll find that you can reduce the MOQ, pay a higher
Mhm.
cost per unit, but hey, you get a lower MOQ.
I was going to say to jump onto that, Josh. One of the things I've found is I've run into groups that have maximum order quantities for specific items. If you're running really weird, really strange stuff, and in drinks, I see it with peanut butter, but I also see it with like coconut and other items like that. If you're running really weird stuff, the equipment generally can only take so much throughput before it's all got to be ripped apart and cleaned. And so most of the time, there has to be a really good reason to stop the run midway through to rip the equipment apart to go clean it in order to rerun it and then do the same thing again. So I've seen, depending upon how strange you get, especially in the food and beverage space, and I would imagine in most spaces, the stranger you get, maybe the smaller volume anyone wants to run of that,
Yeah.
especially at the beginning, because it is just strange.
That is a very good point too. Like when your formulations or your ingredients are deviating from what the manufacturer is good at producing, but we can't really afford to lower the MOQ or, to your point, maximum order quantity. I've never really heard of a maximum order quantity. That's actually pretty interesting, but I could totally see that being the case.